Titans, go! Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Titans Tower once again, ready to talk Fallen with my wonderful co-host, fellow Titan Talker, and occasional Captain Grumpy, Jesse Jackson.
Well, hey, Charles, I'm sitting here at the Titan Tower, and it's been shot up good.
Yeah.
We need to have maid service come and clean this thing up.
I'm going to hate to see the bill for this.
Absolutely. It is good.
It's a bit messy. I mean, like, windows are knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, there's, like, some blood stains here and there, and, overturned tables and all kinds of chaos, and spilled giant bowls of cereal everywhere.
And it wasn't even a fun party.
No.
I mean, at least they could have had a fun party. I am thrilled to be here this morning talking about Fallen, I believe is the name of this episode, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about here at episode 46, which, of course, was the 10th episode of Season 2, just aired a few days ago on November 8th, 2019, the day after my mom's, her 83rd birthday.
Ah, very nice.
She celebrated that over the weekend, and this was written by Jamie Gorenberg, who previously wrote the episode Aqualad, which was a much better episode in my opinion, and directed by Kevin Sullivan, who directed the season 1 episode Origins. So I just thought I'd mention that real quick. Jesse, I kind of know some of your thoughts already, but before we get into our guest cast this week, what's your general thoughts about this one? He says trepidatiously.
No, in the spirit of Meatloaf, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Okay. I think there's 3 major storylines in this episode.
Right.
2 of them I think were very good and moved the story along. The third was just horrible. It is horrible about everything, and when we get to that, we'll talk about it. And I'm glad to see that a couple places online had some of the same concerns that I did, specifically about timelines.
Yes.
And the speed of justice.
Right. Yeah, this is, I mean, I've heard of it, like a right to a speedy trial, but this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and when we get to that topic, we'll get on, I'll go on a little bit of a rant, but just to pull the curtain back, I actually asked Charles, I said, do you want to just spend 5 minutes saying this is a bad episode, and then we'll just catch up on some other podcast? And Charles, the true professional that he is, says, no. We have to rate this so someone else doesn't have to.
Well, if you remember what I said exactly is I don't want to shortchange our listeners. Yes. I don't want to give them just a 5 or 10 minute episode because they're so kind enough to devote their time to us.
And you are right.
And I'm sure there's people out there that actually enjoy the episode. So I don't want to shortchange them. So I thought, yeah, we need to kind of do it. Maybe we need to hold our noses a little bit here, but I think we owe it to everybody out there, all you Titan talkers out there in podcast land. We're here to record this episode, so you don't have to.
What were your quick thoughts?
My quick thoughts are, generally, I thought this was just a little bit better than last week's episode.
Okay.
I kind of, regardless, setting aside the horrible setup and circumstances of Dick being imprisoned, I thought once he's in there, it's kind of an interesting story. But like you said, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we get into our topics. The logistics just don't work. And I think it's kind of intended to be a setup for him becoming Nightwing. But again, this is such a huge divergence from the comics, and we'll talk about this here in a minute.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, and I posted on Twitter that how frustrated I was as a Titans fan that it seems like the Titans writers, the DCU Titans writers, are tanking the back half of the season after
They really are.
after such a strong start,
Yeah.
and I'm worried that it's going to be kind of this kind of quagmire until the season finale. So
Yeah.
hopefully they'll rebound a little quicker than that because hey, we've only got 3 episodes left after this one. But that's what I'm kind of dreading at the moment.
Yeah.
So that's my quick thoughts.
All right. Good. Excellent quick thoughts, Charles.
All right. Thank you. So guest cast this week. We get the return of Natalie Gumede as Mercy Graves, who does a great job. She's very menacing.
Thumbs up. And
yes,
we'll talk about her a little bit, but a pretty cool mom. I love the scenes with her mom.
Yeah, we actually get a little backstory with her having, she's basically obviously in a lesbian relationship, marriage. We don't know exactly what, but she has a partner, and apparently her partner has kids. So there's a fun little scene where they're in the car. I don't know how much it actually related to the story, but it was kind of like a nice little insight into Mercy actually having a personal life, and we'll talk about that more.
Okay, good.
We get the return of Raul Benea as Walter Hahn. Of course, we get Joshua, Orpin as Superboy. Evan Jones is in this episode as Len Armstrong, the prison guard that tries to bring Dick Grayson around as a snitch for him, and tries to kind of bring him into the fold. If you're a fan of Legends of Tomorrow, you may remember him as Dick Rory, the father of none other than Mick Rory, Heatwave.
Oh, okay.
So that's probably where you've seen him before. He was also in the movie Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and also in the movie 8 Mile, starring Eminem. So just thought I'd mention that one.
If you look at his IMDb page, he's been a very busy character actor.
Yes.
In a lot of different shows.
Yeah, he's got a kind of a little kind of a conniving, a-hole-ish face.
Yes.
So he probably gets stuck with a lot of those roles.
Absolutely.
Let's see, we had Aurel de la Mota as Raphael, a.k.a. Rafi. We had Julian Works as Luis, who I'm guessing is his younger brother. Ray Gallegos as Santos. He's kind of an interesting actor. He was in the movie Logan. He was also in Spider-Man 3 and an episode of Star Trek Enterprise. So kind of a geek trifecta there. Thought that was impressive. Sydney Kuhne makes her debut as Dani, who I'm guessing we're going to learn more of in the next episode. Ish Morris plays her abusive boyfriend Caleb, and he's been in episodes of Arrow, iZombie, and The Handmaid's Tale, if you're a fan of that show. And also, lastly, Michael Reventar, who played Carlos. He played the supervillain Blackout in the Flash TV series.
Good.
And he was also in The Strain and in that Jennifer Gardner movie that just came out not too long ago called Peppermint, if you're familiar at all with that movie.
Okay.
It's on cable a lot these days, so you probably might have seen it on Showtime or something. But I just thought I'd mention that. And a little bit of quick trivia before we get started. Corto Maltese gets a shout out in this episode, as some of the Raphael and Luis, they're from Corto Maltese, as we find out, which is a small island off the coast of South America. It's fictional, that was introduced in Frank Miller's Batman: The Dark Knight Returns back in the day, back in the 80s, which also got a shout out if you're kind of a little trivia geek. You also got Corto Maltese, obviously was mentioned in Batman 1989, that movie, which of course was the location where Vicky Vale took all those rather grisly photographs that the Joker admired, if you remember that movie.
Yes.
And who doesn't, because it's one of the best comic book movies ever. I was also given a shout out in Smallville, Arrow, and Supergirl. So I
Nice.
thought I'd mention that, a little bit of trivia.
Hmm.
3 topics this week. So let's dive right into our most controversial topic. Now, I don't have a theme this week, but I had to call it this. This is my topic name for this. Gray, and in parentheses, sun, is the new black.
Ah, okay. Good.
So gray is the new black, or gray sun is the new black. That's my title for the segment. So obviously, Dick Grayson, the prison movie, is what we get this episode. And obviously, Jesse, I'm going to start with you because I'm guessing you have 1 or 2 thoughts about this storyline. And I'm just going to let you go embrace, call on the power of Captain Grumpy.
Yeah.
And go ahead and give us your thoughts.
So last week we talked about what purpose is why is Dick wanting to be arrested? I mean, this looks like, you get arrested so you can go in and do a prison break or something.
Right.
And it appears that he just wants to go to prison because he's tired of helping people. And he feels like he needs to be punished.
Right.
So he wants to get arrested. And he pleads guilty. So in the span of a night,
yes,
he's arrested. He's processed. He's booked. He pleads guilty.
Right.
He is sentenced and he is sent to jail.
Yeah.
All without any press.
Right.
They know he's a detective.
Yes.
So they know at least that. But the adopted son / ward of one of the richest men in the world.
Yes.
In a world of, social
paparazzi,
media. Social media, there is no way.
Zero press.
They're assuming that Bruce Wayne doesn't know that his son, quote unquote, is arrested. They make no effort, and all of a sudden he's in jail.
Unless Bruce knows that he is, and he's the one suppressing the press on this. But we don't know. But there's no explanation for that. He gets a basically his charge is assault on a federal officer. That's the official charge.
Right.
He pleads guilty. Presumably, he waives the right to a trial because he wants to be imprisoned. So that kind of speeds things along. I can get that. He gets sent to this King County Correctional Facility, and he's sentenced to 7 years. Again, why so quickly? How did the sentencing? Because normally you have a hearing, and then even if you waive the right to a trial, they hold you over for sentencing.
Yes. I mean, it just truly
right.
It makes, and I guess you
now
can
we
do
don't
the hand wave.
We don't know how much time has taken place since the
Yes,
arrest.
we do. We do know that because I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they showed the newspaper of Connor attacking people, and they were still covering it on the news. So that means it's only been a day or 2 at the most. In fact, I would argue it's the very next day, because that's why you would have the press. Now, if they want to trail us that these are 2 different timelines, like Westworld does sometime, BS, because you've not established that's the kind of show this does. Right. And the whole reason, okay, you and I love comic books.
Yes.
We could argue who's our favorite character, but in our top 10, number 1 for me would be Dick Grayson, probably. No, Superman would be number 1. But in my top 10, Dick Grayson would be in that area.
He's at least top 10 for both of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I am a lover of classic. I loved, and you and I have talked about on this show, that in the original storyline, he picked Nightwing partly in tribute to Superman and Batman, because Batman's Batman-like character when he went to the bottle city of Kandor.
Right.
And, Flamebird was kind of the Robin. So it was a tribute to both of them.
To Nightwing and Flamebird, yes.
Yeah. And then kind of in the new era, I can't even remember why it picked it. You're a better historian than I do. Do you remember in this modern twist why he picked Nightwing?
They've never really given an
Okay,
explanation for
okay,
that. But just that, they have kind of, because of kind of incorporating the past elements once again with
yeah,
Rebirth in 2016. It's kind of implied that, yeah, that whole um, reason for Dick taking on Nightwing because of Superman is back in play.
okay,
And Superman has been established in this universe.
absolutely. He has.
Gar's made reference. I mean, you don't have to have had, or have to have Superman actually appear in the episode to have Dick say, "Hey, look, I've known Superman," and maybe he'll say this later on, but
Yeah,
for right now, um, you know, if they are changing that origin, there's no reason why they couldn't use
and
that Kryptonian
right,
story that Superman told him once upon a time.
right, because they've established, right, because Connor Kent is from Superman's
Right?
genetics, and he told Batman, he told Gar, you got to call Bruce Wayne,
Yeah.
not Bruce Springsteen, because he can get in touch with Superman.
I see what you did there.
Thank you. And then you please,
Yeah.
please
Yeah.
hold my hand, Charles. Reassure me as my companion on this podcast and so many others. They are not going to use some criminal's legend about some folklore from some obscure island is going to be Dick's motivation, his inspiration to becoming Nightwing,
Right.
because they show the scene on the prison
Right.
wall.
Yes. Yeah. So,
I want to throw up.
well, for one thing, we don't know that they're actually criminals because they were just held over because they were in the country.
Okay.
They said they're not murderers. They were just they're waiting to be deported back to Corto Maltese.
All right. So that
So
makes it even
so
worse.
well, no,
That Dick can get sentenced, but in this world,
yes,
it takes forever to deport someone.
yes.
Oh, your timeline so made a mistake. But please continue, Charles.
Okay, so one of the things that I thought would have been interesting with the introduction of Superboy
Mhm.
and the revelation that, hey, Superboy has, he's got a chunk of Superman's memories inside him. I thought it would have been interesting if Superboy told the story of Nightwing and Flamebird to Dick Grayson, and that would have inspired him to take on the name Nightwing. So you wouldn't even have to have Superman, but it'd still be from Kryptonian legend.
Yeah.
But here, we're told that that these prisoners from Corto Maltese, they essentially have one of them at least believes in this legend called Al Azul, which it's not an actual translation. It's kind of like, sounds a little bit like El Azul, which means the blue. But essentially, this legend is about a bird hero in their village who apparently lives between the moon and the stars. And in their time of their greatest need, he flies down and saves people. And Dick is all insistent, oh, there's no Al Azul, but Luis insists that there is, and tonight he'll save them. And he, like you're talking about the drawing on the wall. So he etches into this wall a design that kind of looks like a hybrid of Dick's Nightwing logo from Batman the Animated Series and the original kind of, that diamond-shaped Nightwing design from the George Perez original Nightwing costume. So there's kind of both elements of both in that. So maybe it's just enough to give Dick an idea of what he wants to do with his costume, perhaps. Maybe that's not he's not going to call himself Al Azul. We know that. He's going to call himself Nightwing.
Yes.
So that name Nightwing apparently has to come from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just thinking along the lines of, okay, it's a bird at night, and
Hmm.
so night bird, night wing. Somehow that'll get translated, or
Yeah.
he'll connect the dots somehow as a tribute.
Hmm.
The question now is, though, after helping free um, Luis and Rafi, um, and getting taken down at the end of the episode by the guards, presumably he's going to have even more charges thrown upon him. So
Hmm.
how are they going to get his record expunged? Unless the only thing I could think of is that Dick Grayson dies
Hmm.
and Dick essentially goes off the grid and becomes full-time Nightwing.
Yeah, could be.
That's the only thing I could think of is how you get to erase this, um,
Yeah.
and and get his record expunged. I have no idea how.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Um, I just,
And
I
I'm worried they're going to drag that on
yeah, I just don't.
another 2 episodes at least.
Yeah, I don't like this storyline at all. I don't think it makes any sense. It, it, I just, if he was feeling this way,
Right.
then wouldn't more realistic, and I realize this probably wouldn't work for the series, but wouldn't you just go back to Detroit? Go back and being a detective, reapply for the force, they'd bring you back, and you just spend your life working in Detroit trying
After
to solve crimes?
after his prison sentence, which is now going to be
No,
extended because
but I'm saying
yeah,
instead of getting arrested,
yes,
just fly to Detroit.
right.
And why did you go from I want to go from the farthest place away and actually giving your passport, giving your credit card to 2 minutes later you decide, hey, you know what? Instead of escaping, I'm going to go punish myself.
Right.
Because I'm one of the stupidest people in the DC universe.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we were kind of hoping, last episode, there's got to be a reason for this. Is Jericho mind controlling him and caused this, or he's got some kind of a plan. We talked about that,
Yeah.
but so it's kind of, I agree with you. It's very disappointing to have Dick just decide, hey, I think I need to be punished, so I'm going to give myself a criminal record and get myself thrown in prison, and I deserve to be thrown in with a bunch of other. I don't have to have a private cell. I can have hang out with a bunch of people that might shiv me in the middle of the night, and I'm cool with that because hey, I deserve it.
Yeah.
But here at the end, and Len, the prison guard, kind of makes this comment that, oh, so what happened to Mister? Like, I'm not interested in helping anybody.
Hmm.
So presumably, this whole experience with Luis and Rafi has taught him that hey, he still cares about people. He's not completely gone. But the problem is now in doing so, he's only compounded his problems,
Hmm.
his legal problems,
Yeah.
and I don't know how he's going to dig himself out of this one.
I don't either. And it's just, it, it,
I think the writers. I'm worried the writers have painted themselves into a very dark corner with this. Now,
and you just wonder,
hopefully, they have a way out of
yeah.
this.
And what were they trying to do? That's the other thing. You were going for something, you swing and a miss.
Right.
Like, and that's what just really, really bothers me. But
and I share your frustration because I saw they had this great momentum they were building at the first half of the season. Things were moving along. They had introduced all these new characters. They did it well. They set up, Deathstroke being, the big bad of the season, and attacking the Titans. And I get that. Okay, maybe he's going to win for a little bit, but
yeah,
this whole idea that everybody's scattered to the four corners and we got to wait for them to kind of figure out, hey, we need all to get together, get the gang back together once again to defeat Deathstroke or Jericho
hmm,
or Jericho.
yeah.
And it just seems very forced and completely tanks the whole buildup of the narrative from the season beginning.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I just go, wait a minute. What are you? What was your hope? What was your plan?
Right.
And I just don't know if they had one. And maybe they think this is a good idea, but I
Yeah.
don't get it.
I think they had a plan, but they completely derailed it. I'm guessing they figured, well, hey, we'll just take this little detour. But I think they've taken too much of a detour, and now they're lost in the woods, and now they're struggling to find their way back to the main path again. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, because you've got to figure out, okay, and I still stand by my thoughts from last week that the Deathstroke and his wife and the Dick scene would have been served better if that had happened right after the first experience
Right.
with Jericho dying. And I still know you're holding hope that Jericho is alive because that explains a few other things about the manipulation.
Right.
But, you've kind of put yourself in a corner now. Deathstroke's defeated you.
Right.
And he has said, if you get back with your Titans again, I'm going to kill everyone you love. So how do you fix that? Do you kill Deathstroke? You can't do that. You're that's against your code. So they put themselves in a weird position.
And that's kind of why Dick is punishing himself, because hey, he's feeling guilty over Jericho of lying to everybody. He's trying to come clean. He wants to make amends. You know, like the previous episode was titled Atonement. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to atone. But the way he's going about it is just makes no sense.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And it just seems like, okay, you're not thinking clearly, you're emotionally compromised, but it's incredibly frustrating the way they're handling this character, and and what it's done to the entire team, and suddenly the entire team is like, oh hey, we need to try and call Dick. All we're getting is his voicemail because hey, he's in prison. So we don't know, even we said we didn't want to talk to him. Suddenly we need him.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. It just
that's
it just kind of you end up kind of hitting all these dead ends if you're in a maze and you're like, what do you do?
And that Charles sigh
yes
is just perfect. Just
it's exasperation. That's what it is.
It is. It absolutely. Okay, so rescue us, Charles. Get us out of the ditch. Move on to some of the other storylines that I do not think were too bad.
Okay, so unlike the Titans writers, I'm going to dig us out of this one.
Good.
And let's talk about topic number 2. Let's talk about Rachel and Dani. So we get catch up with what's going on with Raven. We find out that apparently after she ditched Donna in the middle of the street and decided to go off, and she's like, okay, screw this. I'm going to get my own subplot. So she goes to what is apparently some kind of soup kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And she sits down next to this runaway girl named Dani. Tries to bond with her. It's kind of interesting because Dani looks like she's depressed, down on her luck. Rachel, to her credit, tries to cheer her up a little, cracks a little joke, breaks the ice, and the two kind of start talking. So I want to get your thoughts on Rachel and new character Dani, who I'm guessing we'll see more of, judging by the way this episode ended. Take a deep cleansing breath from the previous topic, and let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I liked this subplot. I don't necessarily understand why she went with Donna and then left. So when she could have just left on her own. To
be fair, even Donna doesn't understand that either.
Yes. So perhaps that, maybe that's the idea, right? Okay.
Right.
But we are where we are.
Yes.
She's gone this where she's, she had a really, really, I think, it was a fun discussion where he can, they pick what they want. Her going on, and then we're like, okay, we're done. That's great. But I the story I don't like about this is the idea that her dark self, her shadow self, would work without her. I don't think I think that it is dangerous on its own.
Right.
I think that's an unnecessary needed twist. You know, it it feels like, oh, and you know what? We don't have enough stuff going on.
Right.
Let's add another twist to just jack with our people's lives. What did you think of that scene where she uses it to save the guy?
Yeah.
Then she calls it off, and then
Well,
later
she uses it to kind of throw him up against the wall to intimidate him. But
Yeah.
but yeah, she retracts it and then it kind of goes off on its own. And
Yeah.
now they have kind of set up at the beginning of the season. Remember, Raven's soul self slash swirling cloud of death with razor blades
Yeah.
has kind of been operating independently on its own. It's got its
Yeah.
own motive. Like, it even activates while she's sleeping,
hmm
and it does things while she's asleep. Kind of like
And,
Spider-Man's alien black costume. If you're at all
yeah.
familiar with that went off and did things while Peter Parker was sleeping, and ultimately they had to be separated, and then the costume went off and took on Eddie
Right.
Brock's form and became Venom. You remember that?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
do.
so comics geese, I'm sure you know about that. So so the question is Raven's soul self, what's its motive? Is it just this horrible aspect of Trigon that's still lingering within her, that's hungering for death, killing, all kinds of icky bad stuff, and finally it's gotten strong enough to kind of operate independently. That's what I'm kind of wondering here, is that it's finally it's growing in power. That's what I'm kind of concerned about, and now it's able to operate independently. As we see, it flies off, goes into a gargoyle, animates the gargoyle,
hmm
and stone gargoyle, and uses that to attack Caleb and kill him
Yeah.
horribly.
Yeah. Maybe, and maybe they're going to set up to resolve this in issue 3. I mean, season 3.
Right.
But I felt like it was just something they didn't need. But
They could be
if it,
setting up Trigon's return. We don't
yeah,
know yet.
yeah.
I think that's a possibility.
hmm And if this was only that,
Right.
then I would be a little bit more. I guess if they had not made this big misstep with Dick, I would be a little more okay with this. But it just feels like that.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's just like
except for
it's
that,
it's like
I like
another thing we have to pay attention to.
Yeah. Except for that, though, I like the interactions with
Dani.
her being there and Dani, and I thought that was good stuff.
Yeah. So essentially, we find out that Dani has this abusive boyfriend named Caleb. Rachel intimidates him, scares him off, and
Yeah.
presumably unwittingly kills him.
Yes.
Presumably she doesn't know what her soul self did on its own.
No, that's the story I get. Yeah.
Yeah. So she'll find out presumably later, and which kind of absolves her directly of any crime of directly killing anybody.
Right.
Because she would look like she wanted to kill Caleb until Caleb was like pleading for his life, and then she kind of thought about it and was like, okay, I'll retract this. But presumably the soul self wasn't satisfied, and that's why it went off on its own.
Yeah, and that could be one of those where it she thinks she's controlling it,
Right.
but it is following her darker nature.
Yeah, I think it's controlling her more than she's controlling it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And again, like it kind of like the alien costume a little bit.
Yeah.
So Dani's like, first Rachel's concerned that Dani's going to be freaked out by what just happened, but
Right.
Dani thinks it's awesome, and so she brings Rachel back to this little hideout where we find out presumably there's some other runaways,
Mm-hmm.
and Dani introduces her as someone who can help them. Now we
Yeah.
don't know how she's going to help them, what with,
Yeah, I
and
don't know either.
so we'll find out. But apparently, it's kind of this little rabbit hole that Rachel's now going down,
Hmm.
and we'll get involved with a bunch of other people. And again, I think it's meant to kind of detour us from getting the team back together sooner than they should.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
So, I mean, it's interesting, but I think at this point we don't need to see that. We need to get the team back together as fast as possible at this point
Absolutely,
and get the
yes,
storyline back on track. So
yes.
that's my take anyway. So, anything else about this segment?
Nope.
All right. So, third topic, and this is another kind of more of a main topic here. Third topic, I want to talk about Gar, who gets more to do in this episode. Connor, Crypto, who has a couple of fun scenes because everybody loves Crypto, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely. Crypto
and
is amazing.
and Mercy Graves. So
Hmm.
we talked about Mercy a little bit at the beginning. So what did you think of this storyline where Gar, reconnects with Connor, and hey, Mercy Graves is back, and they've tracked down Subject 13 because hey, he attacked 4 cops, which kind of got some attention, and so Subject 13 is back on Cadmus's radar. So what did you think of all this?
So this was a really, once again, I thought Connor attacking the police was dumb.
Right.
And it, and we're going to blame Gar a little bit on this, but okay, that happened. Let's move on. Based on what that happened, I really liked this story where you've got to get back together. Crypto being there, kind of showing back up at the tower, them having a plan. Mercy getting a phone call while she was on family time. Oh, you got to go back. Hey, I got to go back to work.
Right.
Thought it was really funny. All 3 of the people in the car were staring at their phones, which is very modern-ish,
Right.
and Mercy's like, hey, let's do family time. And
Yeah, like all right, we're doing board game night. So
yes,
Mercy, who is this horrible person,
yes,
is like, okay, we see that she has a family life, and it's like, okay, kids, you're not engaging, so we're gonna do board game night. And
yes,
they're setting all these conditions,
yeah.
like,
Well,
oh,
because
we
it's
have to
gonna
make
be
it. It's got to be
vegan, and yeah,
vegan. Yeah, exactly. And it's
yeah,
just and Mercy looks over at her partner for a little support and help, and
yeah,
her partner is just kind of shrugs like
eh,
they don't like fish,
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah. So anyway, that was great. I loved everything about this. I love them. They're going to kill Gar, and then all of a sudden he turns into a tiger.
right,
And by the way, they're a little inconsistent, right?
yeah.
He says he can turn into a tiger, but didn't he turn into a snake once
Well, that was
already?
that was partly because of Trigon, because remember he
Okay.
was under the influence. So
Okay.
so I'm wondering if he can. And that's kind of
Mm.
what Mercy hints about here to him when she talks about what Cadmus can do for him,
Mm-hmm.
is that presumably Gar can change it. He's Beast Boy. He can presumably change into other animals besides tigers,
Yeah.
but presumably Gar at the moment doesn't know how.
Right.
So we did get to see him as a snake, so we know he can. It was
Yeah.
established.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as as far as Gar is concerned, all I can do is change into tigers, I think.
Yeah, so I like that. I was really happy with it. I like the him being at Catamus. I was a little. You kind of had to do a hand wave when they showed the Titan version
Yes.
of the chief.
Yes.
Even though and I understand it isn't worth going back and reshooting that scene, but it was a little bit like, oh, that's not the chief.
Yeah, I totally would have reshot that personally, but
Mm-hmm.
but I get why they didn't. Like I would have been
Yeah,
like, okay, just throw some money at Timothy Dalton, have him come
yeah,
in, because he's a much better chief than Bruno Bashir.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
for consistency's sake,
Yes.
um, that they use the Bruno by Sheer Chief. They use that old footage from
Mhm.
from the episode the Doom Patrol,
Yeah.
and and it was and it was kind of nice that they actually acknowledged that a little bit. That, oh yeah, hey, remember Gar was like in the Doom Patrol before hooking up with the Titans. So
Well, and
uh,
I really like the fact that Mercy said we've worked with Niles before,
right,
and there are things we can do for you that he hasn't. So I liked everything about that. I love that they're manipulating him.
right,
That the you know we know they're evil, but I
yeah,
can understand why they're trying to put, no, we're not. We're just trying to take care of people.
yeah.
So that was really well done. And like, Eve, oh, we've worked together and this.
To
So yeah,
manipulating Connor the same way. It's like,
yes.
well, and I thought that was interesting because Connor, they basically attack Titan's Tower.
Hmm.
And they're fighting off the soldiers, and then Eve comes in and says, "Hey, look, we're cool, right? We're not here to harm you, even though we've just busted in and tried to attack you with weapons."
Hmm.
Um, so right there, if you were thinking clearly, you should I can't trust these people.
Yes.
But once Mercy references Eve and knows that Connor cares about Eve, that's a way to manipulate him. And she tells him this line is Eve, with you? And she goes, no, but she sent us.
Hmm.
Complete lie.
Yeah.
But Connor, not being so trusting,
Yes.
just wants to reunite with Eve. That's all he cares about. So he goes along willingly
Yeah.
back to Cadmus.
Yeah. So that was um, did not feel like it was a step backwards. That
Right.
makes sense with Connor involved in that.
Right.
So I was happy with that.
Yeah. Now I did one of the things I liked it once Gar's brought back to Cadmus too after being tranquilized.
Hmm.
Now he has that restrictive neck collar so he can't change into a tiger. Again, this
Hmm.
would be a great time to say, "Oh, let me change into something smaller that can
Yes.
escape the collar."
Yes.
But hey,
Yeah.
um, so one of the things I loved though about that whole scene was that Gar was so adamant toward her that,
Hmm.
look, you can offer me whatever you want, but all I want is to be a Titan.
Yeah.
And I really like the fact that out of all the Titans we've seen so far, Gar is the one who's most loyal to the ideal.
Yes, he is.
And that's probably why Dick felt comfortable leaving him in charge of Titan's Tower and taking care of Superboy, what have you. But it's one of the things I really like is that Gar's the one who believes in that,
Hmm.
and I really like that, and I want to see more of that from the other members as well.
Hmm.
Instead of okay, I'm out of here, you're lying to me, all this like Dawson's Creek drama,
Yes.
what have you, or Riverdale to use something a little more current.
Yes.
All this Riverdale drama.
Hmm.
Um, so what do you think? There's we kind of end the episode with in a very kind of a cool way, I thought, where Mercy is telling Walt that she spoke to Luther, and apparently there's been some changes in regards to Subject 13, and she also references once again Project Rakshasa. Now, if you remember, I kind of tipped onto that when in the big Connor and Eve episode when Eve took him down to those abandoned Cadmus labs, and Connor looks over and there's like this file that says Project Rakshasa.
Yes.
Um, I figured that had to be something important, otherwise they wouldn't have established that.
Right.
And now we kind of it gets brought up again. So I think it's something to pay attention to, everybody.
I think so too. We don't know what that is yet,
No, we
but
don't.
yeah.
No, we don't.
Okay.
Um, and apparently Mercy's now in charge of Walt.
Hmm.
And Mercy, says to Walt that Gar just wants to be reunited with the Titans, and she thinks that's an excellent idea. So
Yeah.
presumably, Luther and her have talked, and they figure, well, hey, we got Gar, another superpowered metahuman, in addition to Connor coming back. So why don't we try to get the other Titans, who we know some of them have some other abilities?
Yeah.
And so that might be a way to get the team back together, is that they all get captured, kind of like Hive capturing the Titans in Judas Contract, which
Yeah.
might be kind of an intention. Um, and then, and then this final shot, which I thought was rather effective, is Gar's watching TV with his back toward toward Mercy and Walt. And on the screen, if you notice, he's watching The Wizard of Oz. And
Yes.
it's the scene where the flying monkeys come and they capture Dorothy and her friends for the Wicked Witch.
Ah,
And I
I
thought,
knew it was the Wizard of Oz, but I did not know
yeah, that's the scene.
specifically which scene. That's nice.
So I thought it was a great symbolism for Mercy essentially being the Wicked Witch here.
Nice.
Yeah. So and then the plan to capture, like instead of Dorothy and her friends, the Titans. So I thought that was a nice symbolism on their part.
Absolutely.
I did catch that. So, anything else about this episode before we
Nope.
move on?
Nothing else.
I'm surprised by your restraint regarding our first segment. You kind of lost your initial fire from last night's tweeting.
Yeah, I don't want to beat a dead horse. It was
Right.
it just was a silly storyline. The timeline makes no sense. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
I expect better from the writers.
Okay.
And I guess I'll trust where they're going, but I don't get this one at all.
All right. Fair enough. Fair
Right.
enough. Do you have any favorite quotes of the episode?
A couple of things when Rachel's at the food shelter, when she goes, "Think these are organic?"
Yeah.
When they're eating the vegetables, and then well, we all have to die of something.
Yes.
So those were the two I really liked, that back and forth. How about you?
I got a few. Not as many as normal, which kind of says a lot about the episode.
Yeah.
So Connor says to Gar about Crypto when Crypto comes back and brings Gar along with him.
Yeah.
Connor goes, "Great, dumbest dog ever." And Gar says, "He can ring a doorbell with his nose. I've seen dumber."
I love that.
So I like Gar sticking up for Crypto. Dani and Rachel in the shelter, in the soup kitchen scene, where they're talking about getting away from their families. And Dani says, "I think it's a test. The longer we don't break free, the dumber we are." And Rachel goes, 16 years. That's like a D- for me.
I love that line. That's a great line.
So that's a good line. And then a great exchange between Mercy and Gar late in the episode, where Mercy says, "It's an honor to meet you. Can I interest you in something to eat? Grass-fed ribeye, chia pudding, name anything you'd like." And Gar replies, "How about letting me out of here?" And Mercy replies, "I'm afraid that's not available on DoorDash."
Yes, I'm so glad you did that. That was a great line.
So DoorDash gets the shout out in this episode.
Yes, it does.
All right. So what's your rating for this one?
So I'm going to give this 7 out of 10 board games.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going a little higher than you this week.
Okay.
Just a little bit. I give it 7.5 out of 10 prison shivs.
Ooh, nice.
Because that was a great prison shiv scene earlier in the episode.
That was.
So it's like, stab, 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 run. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Walking away, no big deal. But I did like it just a little bit better than last week's. But yeah, just not by much. So we're still in the quagmire, and Titans Riders, you still need to do better.
And it's still, it makes no sense why Dick wouldn't want to be in a solo prison. That would mean he could even interact less, in a cell. I mean, it isn't like the guy's asking him to do something horrible. It makes no sense.
Well, it was almost like I think he wanted like, okay, put me in with some dangerous guys that might kill me in my sleep, so I have added stress, and
Yeah,
therefore I can't sleep better at night.
yeah, that just
Okay,
makes no sense.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right,
But a lot of this episode does not make sense.
a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so did we get any feedback besides
Yeah, we don't have any
my
Titans,
Twitter?
no Titans Tower news, but yeah. In addition to Jesse being Captain Grumpy on Twitter, we get our new regular emailers. We get more emails from Jock and Stephen Marshall. So let's start with Stevens first this time
Okay,
because he got in first before Jock.
yay, nice.
So he writes in, "Hey guys, I enjoyed this week's episode, but I can't help thinking this was a detour in the story we didn't need to take." Well, we talked about that.
Well said.
Um, you really could have combined elements of this and the previous episode, and it would have made for a tighter story. Agreed.
Yes.
Although that would have even accelerated Dick's conviction even faster, so I don't know. Um, the storyline I found least interesting was Rachel's. I just didn't really care at all. So we're kind of in disagreement there. Dick in prison was decent stuff, but it was a storyline that I felt was really unnecessary. Still, it was nice to see some hinting at Dick's future as Nightwing, although I was hoping he'd have gotten out by the episode's end. I agree. He should have went with Luis and Rafi.
Yes.
But okay, we'll see what happens. The best stuff for me again though was Connor and Gar. I really love when these two are together. They have great chemistry. Agreed. The bromance of the show. I just wish Connor hadn't been so naive with Mercy. Although I think I know where we are heading to. A brainwashed by Cadmus Gar rejoining the Titans only be reverted back somehow, which then leads the team back to Cadmus to rescue Connor.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll track down Rachel as well, and I think Bruce Wayne will get Dick out of prison.
So him saying that makes
Yes.
me think of something a little different, and I apologize.
Okay.
You could have almost accomplished the same thing if he refuses bail.
Yeah.
And he is in jail pending trial.
Yes.
Or pending sentence.
Yes. Agreed.
And you could say
like he's in a holding cell.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there you have visitors. I don't want to see any visitors.
Right.
I think you want to see this one. Nope. And then, you didn't even have to have Bruce Wayne show up.
No.
You could just say, but it's your father. Nope, yeah. Don't want to see anyone.
Well, but Bruce being Bruce, he would have just shown up inside the jail cell because hey, he's Batman. He could get in there.
Absolutely. So Matches would have shown up, but yes.
Oh yeah, as Matches Malone, you're saying, but I think he would have just got in there anyway. All ninja-like because he's Batman.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So he continues. I'm also now wondering if the studies will end with Dick once again going to face Deathstroke alone. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. However, this time the team will show up just in the nick of time to back him up. Then together, finally as the Titans, they'll defeat Deathstroke. Anyway, guys, thanks again and keep up the great work. Well, thank you again, Steven.
Yeah.
And you keep up the great emails, my friend.
Yes.
So keep that up. Great email. Also, we get the Jock writing in once again, where he goes, "Happy weekend, guys."
Good.
Unfortunately, our weekend's almost over now. It's Sunday here as we're recording this. I hope all is well. So how about Titans this week? Well, we've talked about that. I'm excited to listen to your thoughts on Fallen. Of course, the best parts of the episode were all the hints toward Dick evolving into Nightwing. I'm not familiar with Spanish, so I Googled Al Azul and what it means. And from what I gather, it's based on the word El Azul, which seems to mean blue. I talked about that. Check out one of the search results from Google, and he's got like this picture of, doesn't quite come through. Oh yeah, just says Villas Al Azul.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what it says here. So, pretty cool to see something similar to the Nightwing logo in the search. Okay, well, it's not coming up through on my phone, but I'll take your word for it. Let's see. Next up, not sure the need to see for Mercy Gray's minivan scene. So presumably her with her family. I don't see what purpose it shows, I guess. So I think it just gave a little insight into
Yeah.
Mercy's background. I was okay with that.
Yeah, I actually liked that.
It kind of was like, here's this horrible
Yeah.
person. Here's the flip side that you don't expect of her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although it did produce one of the funniest lines in the episode, as Mercy is trying to get everyone to spend quality family time together for game night, she's not getting any help from her partner. Where he
Yeah.
goes, Mercy, I could use a little help. Jill says they don't like fish. And Mercy says, well, I don't like monogamy, but I'm here, aren't I?
Yeah, that was a great line.
Yeah.
That was a line I should have written down. Yes.
Yeah, that was a pretty good line. We'll give Jock points on that one.
Yeah.
So points. I'm excited for Rachel. Looks like she's going to have to save some young girls from what looks to be a horrible situation of forced prostitution and trafficking. We'll see.
Yeah.
She's an amazing hero. Major props to Tegan Croft. She has helped evolve Raven as a character who seems to have more and more confidence as the season goes on. Awesome job. I think we're all concerned for Gar and Connor. I hope they don't turn heel because of Cadmus and Mercy. Last but not least, I hope Dick has realized he's needed in the outside world. Well, I think hopefully that was the point of what at the end. So we'll see. Maybe Bruce can have some pull and get Dick out of prison. Sorry for such a long email. Keep up the good work, fellas, and props on all you do, Jock.
Thank you. And it not too long at all. It was a perfect email. Thank you so much.
Exactly. Thank you, Jock. And
yes.
props to you for the killer email. So
yeah.
Right back at you, man. So if you want to be like Jock and Stephen Marshall, please write in to us at titantalkcast@gmail.com. Give them a little competition, guys. So titantalkcast@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter at Titan Talkcast. We'd love it if you'd liked and follow us there. And also on Facebook at Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. That would be super if you could do that. And the more likes and follows, the more we reach people. And please share our stuff too if you're thinking about it, because that helps people reach us as well. So Jesse, how about you?
Well, you can find me on social media at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook at Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. You can hear me talk about Doctor Who on Next Stop Everywhere with a very charming and insightful co-host.
Is he bigger than me?
No. I think y'all are similar.
Okay.
Then you can also hear we have returned. Charles and I have brought back the Fandom Zone podcast from the Fandom Zone, and we are talking Watchmen, which is so far have not done any. I have not seen too many missteps. I am really, really enjoying the series, and I recommend you, if you've not seen it, you should watch it, and then definitely go to Phantom Zone, download our discussions as part of your journey through that. I'm on Set Listing Bruce, where I talk about Bruce Springsteen and his fandoms. I'm in the middle of a 30 days of postings, and I just recently was a guest contributor. I was being interviewed by a podcast called Your Podcast or Mine.
Interesting.
And yes, wonderful. Sherry has different podcast hosts, and she interviews them. She talks about their podcast, about what got them into podcast and what they enjoy. I give a shout out to yourself and my other podcast, but most of it we spend talking about Set Listing Bruce, because Sherry is a big music fan. She had joined me on Set Listing Bruce, so returned the favor having me on Your Podcast or Mine. Do a Google search for that if you want to hear me kind of talk behind the scenes stuff about podcasting. Charles, how about you?
Well, obviously, Charles Skaggs, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things. Come on, you.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Titan Talk, including Titans news, Doom Patrol news, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news and news of my other podcasts they do for Southgate Media Group, including the aforementioned Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, where Jesse will be rejoining us here in a couple of weeks to talk The Creeping Death, a Big Finish Doctor Who audio.
Yes.
There'll be a lot of fun with that. And then also the aforementioned The Fandom Zone podcast. And everybody, if you're a fan of HBO's Watchmen, and I hope you are, because like Jesse said, it's been fantastic. The first 3 episodes, especially episode 3, it seems to be getting better and better with each episode. And we're having a ball talking about it. We're going to talk about episode 2 right after we record this podcast and take a bathroom break. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So please check us out, the Phantom Zone podcast. We would definitely appreciate that. So if you're at all interested in Watchmen, or you know somebody who is, please check out the Phantom Zone podcast.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse. We talk about all things Twin Peaks and David Lynch. Please check me out there. And also recently, I was on DJ Nick's podcast, Happiness and Darkness. And DJ Nick, who's co-hosted here a couple of times here on Titan Talk, and will hopefully be here for episode 50 when we talk our Titan Season 2 wrap-up special. But on his podcast, Happiness and Darkness, I was fortunate enough to talk about my second all-time favorite comic book movie, The Dark Knight, the 2008 movie by Christopher Nolan, starring, of course, the late Heath Ledger as the Joker, and of course Christian Bale as Batman Bruce Wayne. Had a lot of fun talking about that, and it's always great to talk on Nick's podcast. So if you enjoy what I do here, I hope you do. Please check us out on Happiness and Darkness.
Absolutely.
So give a little love to Nick because he's so kind to us. Otherwise, come on back next time here on Titan Talk. We're going to talk a rather intriguingly titled episode, EL_0 or O. So EL_O. And I have no idea what that's a reference to because it's like E period, L period, underscore, O period.
I turn to stone when you're around. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
I'm a big Electric Light Orchestra fan, so
yes.
that's I'm hoping that it is it's a jump forward in time, and all the Titans are going to see a Jeff Lynne concert.
Well, Jesse, don't bring me down while I'm trying to do this next time.
Absolutely.
Don't bring me down.
Down. All right.
All right. So everybody, come on back next time for our next episode. We're going to talk EL_O. The 11th episode of Titan Season 2 as we get into our final 3 episodes. Hopefully things are going to start rebounding. Fingers crossed. We're waiting. And everybody, thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you next time right here on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.